Entitlement wears pearls and spits venom with a smile. My name is Danielle, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been used like a ladder, then kicked down the moment they reach the top? That was me, front row at my sister's medical graduation. The one who carried her dreams on my back and paid every cent she owed, even when it meant I couldn't pay my own rent. And still, when she turned around after that ceremony, diploma in hand, cap tilted perfectly, she didn't thank me. She dismissed me. "You've done your part," she said, eyes already scanning for the next camera. "Now get out of here." As if I were some unwanted extra in her highlight reel. And my mother? She didn't even try to hide her glee. "You shouldn't even be here," she smirked. This is her moment. Their laughter blended with applause. Their cruelty drowned under claps and confetti. And me? I just smiled. Because that was the moment I knew. They had no idea what I'd done. And they had absolutely no idea what was coming. You see, I was never supposed to be anything. Not the favorite. Not the golden child. Just the one who made things easier. The girl who dropped out of college to work 3 jobs. The girl who paid utilities while they framed graduation photos. When my sister wanted med school, they turned to me like it was expected. "She's brilliant," they said. "It's your duty to support her." So I did. I poured everything I had, and then some, into her education. I said no to my own dreams. No to nights out. No to anything that didn't revolve around keeping her afloat. I sent money from a studio apartment where the walls leaked and the power flickered if I used the microwave and the kettle at the same time. I worked shifts until my legs went numb. But I never complained. I thought maybe, just maybe, love would catch up one day. That if I built her wings, she'd carry me with her. But people like my sister? They don't fly with you. They fly over you. And people like my mother? They hand you matches, then mock you when you burn. So when they humiliated me that day, in front of her professors, classmates, and God knows who else, I didn't cry. I left. Silently. And when they got back to the house, the one they thought they still owned, well, let's just say, they finally realized why I didn't argue. I wasn't born with a voice. I had to build one in silence. My sister, Camille, was the golden light. And me? I was the shadow she cast. Growing up, it was always clear. Camille mattered. I managed. She got piano lessons. I got handed the mop. She got braces and ballet. I got told, "You're strong. You don't need all that." It wasn't hate. It was something colder. Neglect disguised as duty. My mother didn't scream or hit. She smiled sweetly and said things like, "Danielle's our helper. She's reliable. Camille is sensitive. She needs more support." Support. Right. Support meant I skipped college orientation because Mom needed help organizing Camille's dorm. It meant I pawned my camera, the one thing I loved, to cover Camille's textbooks. And when I got a promotion at my job as an assistant accountant, Mom said, "That's perfect. You'll be able to send a bit more now, right? Camille's in her residency. It's crunch time." And I said yes. I always said yes. Until one day I didn't. It was 2 years before the graduation. I was in my dim apartment, crunching numbers for a late report when I looked at my bank account. My hands shook. For years. $72,000 wired to that household. All of it for a family that hadn't called me on my birthday in 3 years. That night, something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. And I made a decision. The house, our childhood home, was in my late grandfather's name. He never trusted Mom's spending. So when he passed, he quietly left the title to both me and Mom joint ownership. But they never told Camille that. And when Mom had trouble paying the property taxes 3 years ago, she'd called me, begged me to help just this once. So I did, on one condition. She signed full power of attorney for the house to me temporarily. She never read the fine print. I never reminded her. And just like that, the house was mine. Legally. Quietly. Mine. I didn't touch it. I didn't change anything. Until after the graduation. Until after they laughed at me like I was just the delivery girl who overstayed her welcome. That same evening, while they popped champagne and posted selfies, I changed the locks. They came back from the ceremony glowing with triumph. My mom pulled into the driveway, her heels clicking confidently on the walkway. But her key didn't work. She tried again. Then again. Until I stepped out of the neighbor's yard with a quiet smile. "Forgot to tell you," I said. "Ownership's been updated." "What the hell are you talking about?" she hissed. I pulled out the file folder. Power of attorney. Full transfer. Tax records, all paid by me. Property deed, with my name, bold and centered. Camille stood frozen. The diploma in her hand, useless in that moment. You wouldn't dare," Mom whispered. "Oh," I replied, "I already did." Some truths don't destroy families. They expose the fact that there never really was one. They stood outside the house like strangers. Mom tried calling me every name under the sun. Camille stood there, stunned, clutching her degree like it could unlock the door. "You ungrateful little," Mom started. I didn't flinch, just handed her the same words she once gave me. "You shouldn't even be here." She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Camille finally spoke. "You can't do this. You're not better than us." And I smiled. "I'm not better. I'm just done." They didn't know what to do. The neighbors were watching now. The perfect family? Crumbling in broad daylight. Mom tried bargaining. Said we'd talk it through. Camille tried guilt. "I wouldn't even be a doctor without you." "And that's how you thanked me," I interrupted. "By pretending I was the help." She blinked fast, her voice cracking. "You know I didn't mean it like that." But she did. They both did. And that wasn't even the worst part. I remembered something. A letter I'd found 2 years back while helping with house paperwork. It was from our grandfather, the one who left me part ownership of the house. He'd written it to my mother. And it read, "I worry what Camille will become with you inflating her ego. You've crushed Danielle's light for years just to keep her useful. Don't forget, she sees more than you think. One day, she'll realize she was never invisible, just underestimated." I never told them I'd read that. But now? I wanted them to know. So I brought out a copy of the letter. Read it out loud on the porch. Word for word. Camille's face crumpled. Mom's lips tightened like concrete.
"He didn't know anything," she snapped.
"He knew enough," I said. "And now, so do you." The next few days were chaos. They tried calling cousins, family, friends, anyone to shame me into giving the house back. I received passive-aggressive texts like, "Family isn't about contracts." "So, this is what success turned you into? Your sister needs that house for her residency." I ignored them all. And when that didn't work, they played the pity card online. Facebook posts about being betrayed by blood. Crying emojis, half-truths, vague quotes. I didn't respond. Because you don't fight people drowning in denial. You let them sink themselves. But the best part? The hospital Camille had just signed with, the one she bragged about nonstop, reached out to me because I was listed as an emergency contact. They were trying to verify her home address for licensing. And I told them simply, she no longer resides at that property.
They paused.
Then thanked me. And just like that, her shiny residency plans had a little crack. All because the home address on her official documents wasn't hers anymore. You don't burn a bridge you built with your own hands, unless you're planning to light your path with a fire. After the residency coordinator called me about Camille's address, I knew what was coming next.
Panic.
Camille had built her future on one assumption, that I'd always stay in the background, quiet and convenient.
Now?
Her license process was delayed because her legal residency was under dispute. The same home she bragged about decorating on Instagram, legally listed under me. Within 48 hours, I got a call. Not from Camille, from her boyfriend, Ryan. A soft-voiced, well-meaning finance bro with expensive teeth and a tendency to say, "Let's not make this messy." "Danielle, hey," he began, overly friendly. "Camille's super overwhelmed. Can we maybe just talk? Like adults." I let him talk. He explained how important her career was, how she'd freaked out after the graduation, how she didn't mean to come off harsh. Then came the ask. Look, if you could just sign something, anything, to make the house thing go away. I stopped him. Let me guess. Camille sent you instead of calling herself. Silence. She said you might be too emotional right now, he replied. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was textbook Camille. I said no. No discussion. No compromise. Then I did something petty and poetic. I made a public post. Nothing loud. Nothing mean. Just a single photo of the house, lit beautifully by the sunset, captioned. Some of us learned how to build homes. Others only knew how to decorate them. It went viral. Within hours, people from town were messaging me. Is this about Camille? I always wondered how she afforded that place. Didn't you support her through school? And then came the twist Camille didn't see coming. Years ago, while working a temp job, I built a private blog. Quiet stories about invisible siblings, sacrifices, secrets, love and loss. It had grown quietly. Thousands of readers. Mostly women. Mostly people like me, tired of being the silent backbone. I had never used my real name, but after the graduation incident, I linked the blog to that photo post. People made the connection. Suddenly, the girl who'd done her part and needed to leave became a symbol. I was getting interview requests, podcast invites.
Camille?
She was getting questions. That week, she called me, not to apologize, to demand. What the hell did you post? You're ruining everything. Do you want me to fail? I let her rage. Then I said,
Funny.
when I was drowning, all I got from you was silence. She hung up, and that was the last time I heard her voice for a while. They spent years crafting a lie. I only needed 5 days to return it, wrapped in reality. Camille's world was built on borrowed shine. My money, my silence, my belief that family meant sacrifice. Now that I'd stopped feeding the illusion, it was crumbling like cheap wallpaper in a storm. After the blog went viral, messages poured in. From strangers, former classmates, even our old family friends.
They didn't want gossip.
They wanted truth. And I gave it, not with rage, but with receipts. Photos of money transfers. Emails of thank you notes Mom had written on Camille's behalf, always with the line, "You're such a blessing to your sister. We'll repay you someday." I never expected repayment, but I wasn't about to let them rewrite history. Then came the call that shattered the last bit of Camille's mask. Her residency board had flagged her application, not because of my blog, because of her ethics statement. Apparently, she'd submitted an essay on personal sacrifice and how she put herself through school while caring for a sick parent. The lies were sickening. So I submitted a letter of my own, not to the board, but to the truth. A formal statement, with documentation of every tuition payment, supply cost, housing support, all tied back to my name. I didn't need to accuse her. I just needed to exist. A week later, I got a polite, almost ashamed call from the residency coordinator. We'd like to verify a few things regarding Camille's file. I told them I was happy to help. The truth, I've learned, doesn't need fireworks. It just needs light. Meanwhile, back home, Mom tried to rally the extended family. She told them I had manipulated an old man's will and took the house through lies. But my grandfather's lawyer, the same one who handled the power of attorney, heard the rumors. And he shut it down. He even wrote me an email. "Your grandfather was proud of you. Don't let noise distract from your peace." Camille's boyfriend? He vanished. Ryan had apparently offered to co-sign a lease for her once she sorted things out. But when her name started trending on niche medical forums, tagged with words like entitlement and fraud, his support dried up.
She posted a story that week.
A sad picture of a boxed-up apartment and the caption, "People don't change. They just reveal who they really are." And I thought,
Yes, exactly.
that weekend I hosted a dinner. Not for revenge. For restoration. 5 women from my blog group flew in to meet me. We toasted to quiet strength. To choosing ourselves. I told them what I'd never said aloud before. They said I shouldn't be at her graduation. But the truth is, she never would have had one without me. I stopped paying her tuition the day she stopped seeing me. Sometimes the only apology you'll ever get is watching them face the truth, without your help. Camille tried to spin the story for weeks. On social media, she posted vague quotes about betrayal. She posed in borrowed scrubs and claimed she was just taking a break for mental health. She even uploaded a video, eyes red, voice trembling, where she said, "I was manipulated, used by people I trusted. I watched in silence." She never mentioned my name, because she knew, if she did, I'd post the rest. See, I still had the full file. Screenshots, bank logs, email threads, even the thank you voice note she once left me before her first big exam. "Danny, if I ever become a doctor, it's because of you. I love you so much." I didn't need to leak it. The truth was already doing the damage. And the world was finally listening. Her residency was officially withdrawn. The board didn't cite my blog or my name. They just noted inconsistencies in submitted documentation and integrity concerns during the vetting process. Her email leaked. Not by me, but by someone inside the admin loop. The line that went viral? "My sister paid, yes. But I carried the pressure." She did it for attention, not out of love. Thousands saw it, and the comments were brutal. "She paid your tuition and you're calling it attention-seeking? Girl, you lived off someone else and still had the audacity to insult her?" We all know a Camille. Cut them off and don't look back. Then came the message from Camille. A real one this time. A long email. Paragraphs of deflection, excuses, and half-sorries. "I just wish you'd handled things privately. You didn't have to embarrass me. You're smarter than this." I stared at it for a long time and wrote back 2 lines. "You embarrassed yourself. I just stopped hiding it. And yes, I am smarter than this. That's why I'm done." Then I blocked her. Mom tried one more thing. A final card. She messaged me a photo of Camille in bed, makeup smudged, looking hollow. "She hasn't eaten in days. I hope this was worth it." And you know what? It hurt. Even after everything, I felt that guilt rise like smoke in my chest. But then I remembered. The folding chair. The "you shouldn't even be here." The smirk as they dismissed me. And I replied, "She should have thought about that before standing on my back and kicking me in the face." Then I blocked her too. Sometimes healing isn't soft. Sometimes it's fire. And when you've lived in darkness long enough, burning down the lie feels like light. You don't heal by pretending the wound never happened. You heal by letting it scar, then learning to wear it like armor. 6 months after I blocked Camille and Mom, I woke up in a city where no one knew my name. It was quiet. No alarm screaming with someone else's schedule. No text demanding rent, tuition, or apologies. Just my breath.
My time.
My life. I moved into a small apartment in Seattle. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Paid for by me. Decorated with pieces that actually meant something, not things I was told were good taste. One wall held a framed print of the blog post that started it all. The one where I wrote, "Invisible daughters grow teeth when no one feeds them. And once they learn to bite, they never go hungry again." I started writing more. Not about Camille. Not about Mom.
About me.
The girl who stayed silent in her own family. The woman who bought a house and never lived in it. The survivor who walked out without taking revenge and still won. My blog turned into a book deal. A small indie publisher. Modest, but real. The advance wasn't huge, but when I opened that first royalty check, I laughed. Not because of the money. Because I made it without owing anyone a single thank you text. At a reading event in Portland, a young woman stood up during Q&A. Her hands were shaking. "Your story. I felt it in my bones. My sister's the golden one too. My mom calls me the rock." Like it's a compliment. But it just means I never get to break. I walked off the stage and hugged her. That's when I knew this wasn't about Camille anymore. This was about every girl who was taught to serve silence. Every woman who poured herself out so someone else could shine. One evening, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was Camille. Inside was a photo of us as kids, her in a princess dress, me in the background holding up her train. And a single note. You were always the one holding it all together. I just never looked back to see you. No apology. No request.
Just that.
I didn't cry. I just folded the photo, placed it in a journal, and wrote beneath it. Not looking back was your choice. Not waiting anymore is mine. For the first time in my life, I wasn't needed by anyone. And it didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. They thought I was the background, but the whole time, I was the frame. 1 year later, I stood on stage at a small local conference titled Unsung Women. The keynote speaker before me was a trauma nurse. The one after me was a teacher who survived domestic abuse. And in between?
Me.
A former invisible daughter who quietly built futures, then reclaimed her own. I opened my speech with the same sentence that had once opened my blog. The ones they silence are often the ones with the clearest voice. It just takes time to find the volume. And then I told the story. Not of Camille. Not of my mother. But of Danielle. The girl who sold her dream college seat to pay for someone else's tuition. The woman who got thrown out of a graduation party she funded. The person who used to think sacrifice was love. Until she learned that boundaries are love too. The applause at the end wasn't thunderous. It was warm.
Long. Lasting.
Not the kind of claps you give for a good speech. The kind you give when someone finally says something you've always felt. After the talk, an elderly woman with silver braids came up to me. They told me I was bitter when I stopped cooking for people who never said thank you, she said. But you reminded me. I wasn't bitter.
I was just done.
We hugged. And I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Back in my apartment, I now keep a framed quote above my writing desk. It's simple. You've done your part. Not as a wound. As a badge. Because I did do my part. More than anyone asked. More than anyone thanked. But the mistake wasn't in the giving. It was in staying long after they told me I didn't belong.
Now?
I belong to myself. Camille is working again. Not as a doctor, not yet. She's rebuilding. Quietly. Maybe honestly this time. We haven't spoken. I don't think we need to. Sometimes, closure doesn't come in conversation. It comes in the space between who you were and who you refuse to remain. As for me, I write. I mentor. I laugh. My house is still in my name. But I don't live there. I left it behind, not to spite them, but to remind myself I never needed a roof built on guilt. To anyone listening, if they tell you your only worth is what you give them nothing. If they say, you've done your part,
say yes.
And now I choose me. Because one day, when they come knocking again, you won't even hear it. You'll be too busy living the life they never imagined you were brave enough to build. And that is the final silence they'll never recover from.